This is Spruce and Studs, and welcome on to this painting tutorial of how to paint a Sanguinary Guard. And I will let you know that straight off the bat, you are not going to get a gold demon by following my painting tutorial. The whole point of this painting tutorial is to first save time so that you can get through your models fairly quickly. By fairly quickly, I mean probably around 3 to 4 hours. That's exactly how long it takes for me to paint one of these quote-unquote grunt type of troopers. So with these grunt or elite type of troops, you want to make sure that you're going to try to get some detail in so that they don't look bland, but at least give them also some sort of differentiation from each other when you're painting them. The second thing is for me to teach you that you don't need to paint every single last detail on the model, and to basically pick out certain areas in which you need to paint so that you can break up the monotony of the model. And thirdly, when you're displaying your models on the tabletop, when you're playing your opponent, hopefully your opponent will recognize the quality of your models and actually compliment you and say, damn, you did a really good job painting your models. So without further hesitation, let's get right in on painting.
Alright folks, as promised, I have listed all the paints that you'll need to use during this tutorial. Hopefully you should find this helpful. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is to pin wash the recesses with Reikland Flesh Shade that's painted with the Retributor armor. The reason why I like to use this kind of technique is because it doesn't darken up the model too much, and you only need to shade in the recesses. Next thing that you're going to use is the Ulthuan Gray. And the reason why I actually use Ulthuan Gray is mainly because it actually has better coverage than a lot of the white colors that Games Workshop actually puts out. The colors seem to be a little bit chunky if you're using like a White Scar or a Corax White, which I'm not really a fan of. And plus, when you're looking at the wings right now, it pretty much looks 100% white because of just perception. I'm sure if you put that side by side with another white color, then it would probably display as a gray. So the next thing you're going to want to do is shade the wings with a contrast media called Apothecary White. And with this contrast medium, you're going to make sure that you're going to really load your brush with that contrast and basically slop it on the wings as you're seeing me doing right now. And this actually has saved a ton of time because in the past you would have to individually wash those areas. So the next thing you're going to want to do is to undercoat all the blood drops and tears with Stormhost Silver. And this is actually a technique that I use very extensively when I paint all my models because I don't really have time to gem anything. And you're actually getting a very, very good effect when you're base coating this stuff with the Stormhost Silver, and then later on you're going to be actually overcoating this with a Blood Angels Red or Flesh Tearers Red contrast medium, and it works perfectly fine and it gives you enough detail. So next thing that we're going to need to do is to paint the ribbons on the Purity Seal with Phoenician Purple. And the reason why I chose Phoenician Purple is because it actually stands out very, very drastically when it comes to looking at the whole entire model, because the whole entire model is gold and you want something to actually pop and detract your attention from basically the bland color of the whole entire model. So moving on, we're going to be painting the skulls, the backpack engine, and the MELTAGUN with Lead Belcher, which is again my favorite silver color because it is a deep silver and it actually lends well to being shaded with Nuln Oil. So as you can see here, I'm picking out the engine areas on the backpacks to paint with the Lead Belcher. And finally with the MELTAGUN, I'm going to be painting basically the nozzle, the sight, as well as the energy pack that's on the MELTAGUN. Next, we are going to be adding more differentiation from that gold color by painting the MELTAGUN's casing with ABADDON black, and it goes well in contrast with the bright colors of the Lead Belcher as well as the Retributor armor. So that's why I decided to do that. Then in just a few moments, we're going to be painting the tears, and as you can see, it provides a really nice way to have the blood tear actually jump out because it looks metallic on the bottom while it actually still looks red as well. And I use this technique in every single one of my regular troops to make the painting job look really nice. However, it doesn't really take that long to do it. The next thing we're going to do is to shade the Purity Seals with the Carlberg Crimson, and then moving on to shading the Purity Seal ribbon with Druchii Violet. And you want to make sure to try to put these things in the recesses, but with the Druchii Violet on top of the Phoenician Purple, you don't really have to worry because the Phoenician Purple is such a dark color. So the next thing that you're going to want to do is to paint those areas that have been painted with lead belcher and then shade it with the Nuln Oil, which is a very, very common thing to use for basically giving any kind of metal parts a real nice color and real nice depth. So again, when you're looking at the Sanguinary Guard, the whole entire model is going to look really gold and kind of monotonous, and you want to break that monotony by actually painting the pauldron with MEPHISTON red, and this technique serves to break up all that gold color and actually put some contrast in there to allow the eye to actually look at something different. Next, we're going to highlight the Purity seal itself with Pink Horror, and then move on to highlighting the ribbons with Genestealer Purple. Now you can choose to leave your model completely what it looks like right now, but I think with the highlights it really gives that extra pop when you're looking at it in the display case of the battlefield. In my earlier days I actually did not do any kind of highlighting whatsoever, and when I compared to the old models to the new models where I did the full extensive shade into highlight, the new models obviously look really, really good compared to the old ones. The old ones look really dull and really bland, so if you have the time, I would definitely highly recommend highlighting your models. And we are approaching the finish line, and we're going to paint the hair with MOURNFANG brown. You'll notice that I actually did not highlight the hair at all, mainly because you don't really see the hair. It's actually blocked by the engine once you attach the engine on. But if you're actually going to highlight it, I would actually recommend Scrag Brown. That will definitely make it pop. So the final touch is to highlight the highest points of the armor with Stormhost Silver. As you are looking at a metallic object in bright light, it actually has a very, very shiny silver type finish to it. So that is why I'm using that technique here. And I find that if you use this kind of technique, it does, again, break up the monotony of the silver. So I am using the texture paint Agrellan Earth to actually paint this base, and I will teach you that to speed up the drying process of this Agrellan Earth, I actually put this model right in front of a space heater. By right in front, it's probably around 4 to 6 inches away, and you also want to make sure to monitor your model so you don't cook it. But this technique allows that Agrellan Earth to dry within 5 minutes instead of sitting there and wait for about, maybe even half an hour for the full thing to dry up. So we don't really have time for that. And finally, we're going to highlight the base with Tyrant Skull. And the whole thing about dry brushing, as you're seeing right now, is to basically get rid of about 95% of the paint on the dry brush and then dry brushing it back and forth, and it will pick up all the raised areas on the base. And that is basically how you're supposed to dry brush. And so leaving the base like this may be a little bit bland for a lot of people. So the next thing I decided to do, which I do with every single one of my models, is to actually put PVA glue on the base so that I couldn't put grass over it. And this adds that final zest or oomph to your model to actually differentiate between the rest of the very bland bases that you will find. And then after this step, you are done. You can sit back and enjoy this beautifully painted model. It took only about 3 to 4 hours to do, and you see a lot of detail on the model, but it is not completely 100% exhaustive, where you are spending upwards of like 6 hours on something like this. Some of you may want to do this, but I sure as heck don't have a lot of time. So I want to do the most time efficient way to paint the models. This is Sprues and Studs, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and leave a comment in the comments section to let me know what you think of this painting video, and I'll see you all in the next one.